All right, my daughter's garage here, doing a little needed maintenance on the old Audi, the S5. So I was having an occasional no start. You'd have to press the pedal a couple times, and also shifting at higher RPMs. I realized that I was having trouble getting into the gears when I was shifting quickly at high RPM, but I think it's because I wasn't pushing the pedal completely down. So from what I read, it's basically a self-adjusting clutch, but their slave cylinder, the plastic housing slave cylinder, doesn't stick far enough out to accommodate the worn clutch. You know, as you go to 100,000 miles or whatever, clutch is still grabbing just fine. I don't need a clutch. I just need it to grab. That's great. There's so many little executive planes flying around. Bear with me. Also, sorry for the hiatus. I've been shifting some things around, hence a different name for the channel and everything. So, all good things. Anyway, I stumbled. I keep in touch with my buddy that I sold the other S5 to, and he made the suggestion to look into a metal housing slave cylinder. But in doing my research, I stumbled on JXB, which I had already done the carrier bearing with them, and I knew that they researched their stuff, and there was a whole article about how the slave cylinder doesn't extend far enough out, and you only make it worse with either the metal housing one or the metal braided line up to the master, you know, because you lose that flex of being able to push the pedal. So the fix was to just switch to this extended slave cylinder. So I did, and they strongly suggest you use this Schwalben German only push brake bleeder to do it through the master, which I bought it, but I'll probably end up returning it. I didn't even open it. So I wanted to just give a quick tip and trick on how I did it, which was basically just bench bleeding it. I already have the Mighty Vac for sucking on the suck side rather than the blow side, so I don't see the need, especially since it's only for German. I don't know if they sell attachments for other vehicles, but I don't see myself hanging on to that. Anyway, I had, of course, because I have so many German and Swedish and whatever, I already had some Pentosan brake fluid, and I wanted to show you specifically the slave cylinder, right? So there she is. It's an M10 triple square that holds it in, along with, there's the bleeder, there's a clip on that, and then you pop the line off. So easy enough suggestion, but what I ended up doing is I bench bled it. I depressed the plunger completely in, and then I literally held over this little reservoir, what's it called? The pan. Over the pan, I just let go of the plunger as I steadily just poured fluid into the intake of it, and I got it all the way to the bottom. You know, I shook it up a little bit in case there were any air bubbles, pushed it back a little bit, filled it again, you know, just a couple times just to make sure it was completely saturated, completely filled with the brake fluid. And then I just did the swap. I pulled the M10 bolt off, but I left it alone. I popped the clip off the line, and with the pan underneath, because you are going to drip, obviously it drips pretty steadily because of gravity, I popped it in to the new one, right? Directly into the new one. And then I depress the fork, which pushes the fluid back up to the master, but you're technically not pushing bubbles back in, right? You wouldn't be pushing bubbles back in because there are no bubbles, because your reservoir, the slave cylinder is completely full and the line's completely full, and you just jam them together. So it's dripping out at the same time as you're shoving it into it. There should be no bubbles. I popped the into clip, locked it into place. I pushed the plunger, which pushes the fluid back into the system. Pushed that into the fork of the transmission, right inside. Threw the bolt in. I checked the pedal. I ran through all the gears with the car on. I'm good to go. I'm gonna say the car is the slave cylinder's bled. I didn't even have to bleed it. It was completely full. So I would say that that's the way to do it. They probably don't tell you to do it that way because, yeah, I wouldn't say you need experience, but I guess knowing what you're doing with a hydraulic system would make sense. The highest point on it is the bleeder valve up top, so I could technically pump the pedal, put a block of wood, and then open the bleeder valve once just to make sure there's no air trapped at the very top, but there's no real need as long as you're Yeah, as long as you're full of fluid. Yeah, maybe I will do that. Maybe I will just one time crack it open, wipe it down, just without even bothering with the suction, you know? Otherwise, you can pull the M10 and dangle it down so that you have easier access to the bleeder nipple. But it's all, listen, it's all nylon, it's all plastic and stuff like that, so you don't want to strip that out. So, I don't know. In a way, I almost feel like leaving well enough alone, just leave it like that. It feels bled, the pedal was hard. I mean, there shouldn't be air in the lines. And that's it. Those are my tips and tricks for the JXB. Extended slave cylinder. And maybe I'll report back at some point whether or not it did anything, but I would surmise that it will.